Thanks to Epic Games for sponsoring this video.
Hey Justin, what are you doing out here?
Oh, hey Mike, I'm just waiting for the bus.
What bus?
Season 4, Nexus War, just released in Fortnite. Now is the perfect time to jump in. If you haven't downloaded Fortnite already, use our link in the description below to download Fortnite for free.
Whether you're just getting back into it or starting for the first time, you can enjoy all the new characters and features.
You can team up with Marvel's greatest heroes and villains, like Thor, Iron Man, and Wolverine.
There's even iconic locations from Marvel Comics. You can battle it out at Doom's Domain and more.
You'll even get cool superpowers, like Doom's Arcane Gauntlets, Groot's Bramble Shield, and Silver Surfer's Board. Fortnite is one of the biggest multiplayer games on the planet. They have more players than I have broken bones right now. I can't feel my legs! Go to our link in the description and get Fortnite for free today.
Today, Ryan and I are back once again for another exciting episode of Retail
Reviews.
And we're talking about the Nintendo GameCube. The games, the console, everything about it. I brought over my GameCubes. I have the Spice Orange GameCube. Look at me, aren't I cool?
He gave me the purple one.
I gave you the purple one. I have the black one at home too. And there's
you have all those. Do you have the
there's
platinum?
also a silver one.
Is this just a box, or do you have?
That's yours. That was here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
I do love the Nintendo GameCube, and I do think that it's one of and I know a lot of people don't like the GameCube, but I love it, and there's a lot of games for it that I love, and that's why I brought them all. I want to go through the games that I really love for the system. Like any system, like NES, like anything, there's bad games on the system, but there are still, to this day, a lot of quality GameCube titles that you can only play on the GameCube, and I still think that this system is worth owning. And it's worth owning the actual GameCube, too, not just playing the games on your Wii. Because I find a lot when I mention the GameCube, they're like, well, why would you play it on the actual GameCube system instead of on the Wii? Because the Wii has a better laser, and I want to tell you why.
Okay.
So here's the deal. You set up your Wii, you set up the sensor bar, and then you get the Wiimote. And then you got to point the Wiimote at the screen and select the game. And at that point, once it goes into the GameCube, then you can grab your GameCube controller and then play the game. When I play GameCube, I want to have that GameCube experience. People talk about aesthetics, like the aesthetics of the Atari 2600. When you play the 2600, you think about that wood grain and all that. I think the GameCube had an aesthetic to it, and I want to experience the GameCube when I play the GameCube, and I want to experience the Wii when I play the Wii. I also like the Wii. That's a separate discussion. But the problem with the GameCube and why people opt to play the games on the Wii is because the GameCube has the laser in it. It usually goes bad after a while. So there's several options for that. You can get the laser replaced, and you can also get there's like an SD card thing where you just put the games on it.
I've seen that.
And do it that way. So there are other options. So I haven't done it yet, but I'm planning to have all my GameCubes redone, have the lasers redone, because I have a big GameCube collection, and I want to be able to use my actual discs. I'm like that. I like to use the actual things. If I own them, why would I not use them? So that's the future for me with the GameCube, if I'm ever going to come back and play any of these games. And I think there's a lot of games here that are worth coming back and playing.
I just want to talk about some important things about the console, and then I'm going to get back to your Wii comment, because I have some thoughts on that.
Okay. The
Nintendo GameCube is Nintendo's fourth major console after the Nintendo SNES and N64. It is a 480p, 480i console. It uses the same AV outs on it as the Super Nintendo and the N64. So if you have a cable from one of those, it'll work. But it also has this digital AV out piece here. We have the Eon Mark II sitting here that will give you HDMI and DisplayPort by putting it in there. But you can use all the Super Nintendo accessories with it. It has its own power cable here, and one of the things that's really interesting about the Nintendo GameCube is it uses these tiny discs. And
why is it they had the tiny discs?
So
I never quite understood.
One of the biggest problems with the Dreamcast, which was contemporary of the GameCube, came out before it, was rampant copying. And Nintendo has always been super sensitive to piracy. That's why if you look at even way back in the NES has the lockout chip in it.
Sure.
Super Nintendo, copyright, region control, all of that. Sega got murdered by having copies of everything. And, going into a DVD era where at this point, everyone had DVD burners and CD burners and things like that. They were very prevalent in this time period.
Wasn't that also around the same time as they were going through I don't know if this has anything to do with it, but where it was going to be HD DVD or Blu-ray, and the HD DVDs were also small like that?
Well,
I don't know if it has anything to do with that.
This is before that.
This is before that? Okay.
Yeah, this is before that. So this disc, this GD-ROM, I think, disc, is DVD levels of density.
Okay.
Similar to it. But I think their biggest fear was rampant piracy.
Okay. So
because they had seen what it had done to
that makes sense.
Sega. So that was there. Another thing about it is, the Nintendo GameCube is in the memory card era of games. Before you had the cartridges where the memory was on the cartridge. Then when you got into systems like the PlayStation, you end up with having to have the memory card, and the GameCube had that. Now, I think that Nintendo had a lot of growing pains going to a memory card based system because the original gray memory cards, like this one says it's 16X.
Well, in the N64, they had it in the controller, which I always thought was weird to have it in the controller.
Right.
And then the Dreamcast had it in the controller, but then they had like the little faces on it. And
shit. Yeah. So this one, the memory card that Nintendo originally put out didn't have enough blocks to really do anything.
Yeah.
And then they came out with the memory card 256 later, which was, the original was gray and the 256 was black. And
you can see mine are all like third party because I need,
because they have the space.
Because I'm like, with the original one that comes with it, you have like one game or two games on there, and you're like, okay, well I have all these games. Like, where can I store the rest of my shit?
Exactly.
So you have to get the third party ones.
Yeah. So I think it's really important to consider that. The other thing is, this is Nintendo's first console that actually went on the internet. But it didn't do it out of the box. On the bottom, you could see the serial port 1 and how there's a little gap here. Well, if you pull this out, there's actually a port here, and the broadband adapter goes in there.
I never did that, did you?
I did, actually.
Did you?
But there was really only one game that people played a lot. I mean, I'm sure there were multiple games, but the game that we played was Phantasy Star Online.
Okay. And how is that?
It's cool.
Okay.
Obviously we're getting in the era of like World of Warcraft and MMOs and stuff, and it's not an MMO.
Since that was online, if you hook that up, is that still like a way to play that? Maybe?
I don't know. Yeah. I don't know if like somebody put up like a server or something like that. Yeah. I haven't played it in a long time.
Okay.
But the funny thing was, how do you chat with people on this thing? So Hori came out with this huge, it's a GameCube controller like this, but...
Oh, is it the giant keyboard?
Yeah.
So Aaron has that thing. I always look at that and I'm like, what the hell is that? It's like, and it has like the controller things on the end of it.
Yeah, so it's like a full keyboard, but it's in the controller like this, and it's white in color.
So it's for Phantasy Star.
And it was for Phantasy Star when it comes down to it. So it's not like people were using this as like a web browser. The Dreamcast shipped with a web browser, and they were trying to make it.
And then
that.
The Wii had like you could go online with it and stuff. But this is right before then.
And the Phantasy Star experience was actually pretty good. Like it was pretty interesting. And there's a new Phantasy Star game now that I haven't tried yet, but I'm curious of thinking to play it.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you ever decide to get these HDMI or RGB adapters, there's a little button on the back, and what you have to do, you have to get a universal remote. So you plug this in, and every time you use it, you have to sync the universal remote to this thing, and then you have to kind of, because the screen will like double. So you have to set it so that the screen like doesn't double. So it's a little bit of like a work to do it each time. But it's really cool and it makes the games look really nice. So I do, this is not like a sponsorship or anything, but I've been using these. I've been doing a lot of GameCube streams. These are really good. I think it is one of the best controllers ever made, but there are a couple negatives to it. I think the D-pad, I've literally compared the D-pad to other D-pads, such as the NES D-pad. It's like half the size of the NES D-pad. It's way smaller, and it's just a little too small. And then the other bad aspect to it is the Z
Yeah,
button.
when we were talking, when we were getting ready to film, I said, why does it only have one Z button? I get that works for Zelda, but there are more games out there than just Zelda, and modern control has become so shoulder button centric that it just seems weird that there's only one.
Yeah, and now in this era, especially I have that Xbox Series 1 Elite 2 controller, which is like, if you haven't used that, you get yourself that controller. It's fucking awesome. It's really expensive though, downfall, but like you're never gonna want to use another controller. And I wonder, not to go too off topic, but PlayStation, I wonder why PlayStation doesn't do an equivalent, because it's like, I was playing Doom Eternal,
right?
And I ended up playing it all on PC with keyboard and mouse at the end, but I tried Doom Eternal on PlayStation 4 and on the Xbox, and that controller, going from the Xbox One Elite Series 2 controller back to the regular PlayStation like DualShock controller, which I love, but it's not nearly as good. I wish PlayStation would come out with some kind of equivalent to that.
Right.
Anyway, back to the GameCube controller. The thing I love about this controller the most, there's two main things. The way that it's form-fitted to your hand. I have never had a controller feel better in your hand than this one. Even that Xbox controller that's a couple $100, I think this one just fits better in a human hand. I think that's probably one of the best things. And then the other thing is this analog controller is fucking the joystick for it. It's amazing. So one of my favorite games of all time is on this system, and it's Super Monkey Ball, the first one. That is a game where you have to have absolute precision, because you're like literally going down like things that are as thin as a piece of paper, and the monkey has to balance on it.
Right.
So this has to be perfect, and it is. So I do love this controller. And one more point about it is the little C stick on it. I remember the thing about that impressed me was going from like the Zelda on Nintendo 64, like Ocarina of Time, and the way they did like the Z targeting and all that, and then you jump to Wind Waker, and how you can move the camera around with the C stick is awesome.
It's way better.
It's way better. And ever since then, like you know, they've had the two joysticks where now all games are like that. But at this point, like this was when they started doing that.
Yeah.
You know? And it's just so much better. So it's an excellent controller.
I just want to make one more point about the small discs. So, you know, at this time, there was no streaming, there was no Netflix, there was no anything. Mm-hmm. So everybody had piles and piles of DVDs. And if you were playing on the PlayStation 2, you could play a DVD, and that would be great. But with the GameCube, because it uses the small discs, you couldn't. But in magazines and things, I saw this thing called the Panasonic Q.
Yeah.
And the Panasonic Q was a Panasonic branded GameCube. It was the same color as this, but it has a mirrored front on it.
It's like the JVC XI equivalent to the Sega CD, kind of. And
it can play DVDs, but they didn't use that for any games, and it wasn't really popular.
Yeah. That's one I don't own. I want to get one of those.
Yeah. The GameCube did not launch with a Mario or a Zelda title.
Took a while.
Was pretty crazy, but it did launch with a Mario Universe title. It launched with Luigi's Mansion. Mm-hmm. And I thought the physics in Luigi's Mansion and the vacuum and the way it works and stuff was super cool.
Yeah.
But it's really hard to buy a system where you don't have like the flagship titles that Nintendo is known for. Mm-hmm. So while Luigi's Mansion was a cool side thing, and really,
it was weird because you're like, "Where's Mario?"
Yeah,
where's like the Mario?
Where is it?
Yeah,
and then
it took a while
it took forever for this game, for Mario Sunshine to come out. And a lot of people love Mario Sunshine, but it's also, I think it's one of the most polarizing Nintendo.
It's like the Zelda
Mario
2
titles.
of the GameCube. A lot of people love it, and a lot of people hate it.
And lately, I think it's been getting a lot more love from critics and fans. Like, I keep hearing more about Mario Sunshine, and I think as long as Mario has the FLUDD in Smash Brothers, people are going to still be going back to check out this title.
What I think is interesting about the Mario game for GameCube and the Luigi's Mansion game is they're both games where they have something on their back.
Right.
And they're both like these vacuum things, or like shooting water or whatever. It's just interesting that they went with that for both of those. So I hadn't played Luigi's Mansion since it came out, back, when the system came out, and I remember liking it back then. And then, so the last few weeks leading up to this, I've been playing a lot of GameCube stuff. I tried Luigi's Mansion again, and I'm happy to say I think it still holds up. I actually really had fun playing it, and I was like, oh, the graphics are still really good for it. The gameplay's fun. They throw you right into the game, and I like get upset because I'm like, oh my god, this is like 80 million cutscenes that you can't skip. It wasn't like that. It's like you just start playing. So I was really like happy about that, and I actually might go through and stream more of Luigi's Mansion probably at some point.
In the N64, prior systems, things like that, having high-res textures was a hard thing. Like most of the N64 games used like Gorod shading, where it was just shaded polygons, that sort of thing. But with GameCube, it actually has the memory and the space to do detailed textures. So an art style came out called cell shading. And Nintendo chose cell shading for Wind Waker, right. Zelda Wind Waker, and you see cell damage there and stuff like that. And, it makes it look like a cartoon, like an animated cartoon, and looks way better on future consoles. But
sure.
That was so controversial because we were making this push to realism.
And there was a lot of pushback with fans against using that style, especially with Zelda.
Exactly.
A lot of people didn't like it.
Yeah, it really complicated. And like Wind Waker, now that cel-shaded games or games that are cartoon inspired are now like very commonplace, nobody cares. But back then they're like, oh, why do we have this kiddie cartoon Zelda?
Right.
And I think it hurt Zelda's prospects. Like people didn't really give it a fair shake because they were so polarized.
It took a while for people to get over that. I think at that time the audience wanted a more gritty Zelda.
Yeah.
That they were looking at that time. I think the audience wanted a Dark Souls of Zelda.
Right.
And they got Wind Waker, and people were like, "This is the opposite of what we want." But you came up with a great point about how it could make such textured graphics and all that. The other thing that it was able to do was able to make smooth surfaces and circles and like ball shapes.
Right.
So then you get to Super Monkey Ball, where you go back to N64, they couldn't do that. Everything, look at Link's face. It's just like a polygon. Everything was a polygon, and PlayStation as well. So it took a while for them to get past the polygons. So I think that's one of the things that made me love the GameCube so much. I always had a problem with that mid area with Dreamcast, N64, PlayStation 1, where a lot of the stuff everything looked like a polygon, and I was like, I think that era of games, is pretty, dated. And I can go back now and look at like N64 games and be like, there's a certain like style to that, and I can appreciate it. But at the time, you wanted to go from these 8-bit, 16-bit characters, 32-bit characters to to this, and that middle area I think just didn't age well. So that's something that the GameCube really fixed, and I was excited about that.
I also want to mention that the GameCube is the last time that Nintendo tried to compete on power as a thing. The Power PC processor, the Gecko processor in here, and the ATI graphics and all of that were state of the art. The GameCube competes on relatively even footing with the Xbox and the PS2, whereas with the Wii, Nintendo kind of threw in the towel on that.
Yeah, and am I wrong? But don't people, I feel like, often say that the Wii is like two GameCubes stuck together?
Yeah.
I hear that comment a lot.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not a tech guy, so I don't know like the truth behind all that.
Yeah, I mean, the Xbox 360 and the PS3 are significantly more powerful than the Wii. Whereas, much like the difference between the PS3 and the Xbox 360, the GameCube, PS2, and Xbox, it's subject to interpretation. I understand in raw numbers, I think the Xbox is the most powerful, but it really doesn't come through in the gameplay as much as like the difference between a Switch and a Xbox One. It's like way different.
Super Monkey Ball. This is one of the reasons to own this system. A lot of times I talk about how I like gameplay over a lot of other things. This is a game that's 100% gameplay. It's all about hand-eye coordination, and it's all about the timing and the rhythm of what you're doing. I absolutely love this game, and I think it's one of the best games on the system. Still holds up to this day. Then there was Super Monkey Ball 2, which is also almost as good in my opinion. And I just want to mention why I like the first one a little bit better. So I like to do the challenges, you know, on stream and things like that. And you get to the expert mode in this game. There's beginning, advanced, expert, and master. And if you want to beat the game, and you have to go through the master levels to actually officially beat the game. If you want to beat this game, you have to go through all of the expert levels, and there's 50 of them, to be able to unlock the master. You have to do it on one continue, and there's no choice. You have to do that. Whereas in Super Monkey Ball 2, they toned it down a little bit, and they made it to where you can just keep replaying the stages over and over. And that might be what a lot of people want. It's more, this one's a little bit more accessible. But for me, I love that about it. If you like, it was like you can't beat this game unless you're really fucking good, you know?
Yeah, you felt like you achieved something.
I felt a huge sense of accomplishment when I beat this game, because when I did unlock the master levels, then the master levels are also really fucking hard. One of the master levels, I remember, master level 3, there was a day where I did literally nothing else but for like 9 hours trying to beat this fucking level over and over and over and over and over. I finally beat it, and it was like a super big accomplishment. And then there's like a bunch of levels after that. As you're playing through like beginner or advanced, if you do it all, I think deathless, then there's also also bonus stages. So this is a game that if you want to basically beat it or be good at it, like you have to really fucking buckle down and like get good.
All right, so let me frame this. You got Monkey Ball 1.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah.
Monkey Ball 2, almost as good. Then what happens?
Monkey Ball 2, you know, by the way, I want to say there's some things that are better about it. Like the Monkey Target in this, they kind of changed it, and it's also like really good. And I think they added different mini games and stuff. I have to say, I'm gonna get to that. I'm gonna answer your question, but I have to also mention, it's not just about the main game and how cool that is and guiding your monkey around and doing all that. It's very much like Marble Madness, but like 1,000 times better. It also has Monkey Bowling, which was one of the coolest bowling games I've ever played outside of, you know, the Wii Bowling. And it has Monkey Target, which is one of the most fun things ever. Like, I could literally just, if I was stuck in a cave for 20 years, I would just fucking play Monkey Target over and over. Like, I love it. Great fucking games. Then they do this. Third game. They're like, oh, people like these Monkey Ball games. Let's do another one. Then they get to this. Super Monkey Ball Adventure. This game fucking sucks. They took everything that you like about the real Monkey Ball games, and they ruined it. When the Wii came out, they released Super Monkey Ball Banana Blitz, which is one of the worst games I've ever played. We did a video not long ago on Contra Rogue Core, or whatever. That game that's one of the worst games I ever played.
Yeah.
But Monkey Ball Banana Blitz is such a fucking insult, because this game is so good. So you play the real Super Monkey Ball. You have to you use the analog stick, and it's very like minute movements, and you have to be like super accurate. You take Monkey Ball, you put it on the Wii. Now you have a game where you gotta guide the monkey around in the ball, but now you have to do it with a Wiimote. So you have the Wiimote in your hand, and you're doing this.
Yeah. It's
called carpal tunnel syndrome, the game. Man, do this with your arm for like a minute, and you want to. Like it's physically painful. It's one of the few things that I played with that's actually physically painful.
Wow.
Then on top of it, for like PlayStation, I think, and other systems, like in the last year or two, they re-released, of all games, Monkey Ball Banana Blitz. The worst one. They re-released that and remastered it. Hello? Monkey Ball fucking 1 and 2, like the good ones, why would you take the worst one and remaster it? It's the worst shit that I've ever seen.
That's crazy.
It's the worst shit. So, that goes back into all of this as you should get yourself a Nintendo GameCube, because if you want to play the good Monkey Ball games, they're on GameCube. They're clearly not the new fucking games that they put out. The GameCube really interested me, and I think it was for the reason of the fact that it can do the textures and make actual circles and things. Mm-hmm. And that excited me more, because I think I wanted to see, more of that. So when the GameCube came out, I went the day of. I was one of those people who was the first in line. I wanted to have it, and I've told the story before, but briefly, what I did is I got to the store at like 8:00 in the morning when the store was going to open, and this is back when they had the gates for the store. I'm waiting. There's a whole line of people, and I wasn't the first person in line, and I wanted to be. So they said, "Oh, the inside." It was in a mall. They said there was the outdoor part of the mall and the indoor part. So they opened the other side. It's like, if you go to like a Macy's or a Sears, it's like the inside part. So I go around to the inside part so that I could be the first person. So now I'm on the inside of the mall, and I'm like looking through the glass, and I can see through the other side, and I see the people on the other side waiting, and I'm like, as soon as this thing goes up, I'm gonna run up the stairs because I'm gonna be the first person to get this fucking thing. I don't know why I felt that way. Like, I don't, like, right now at this point in my life, I would never do something like this, but I was hyped for it back then. So there was this giant Mario banner that I saw, and it said like Nintendo GameCube. The time goes, it's 8 o'clock, and the thing starts raising. I get down on the ground, and I did like a pencil roll under the fucking, like, under the grate or whatever. And I get up, and then the thing's still going, and the people behind me were probably like, this fucking kid, But so I go running, and I see the escalator, and then I see the door, and they're shuffling through now, and I'm like, shit, because I had to like get around to get to it. So if I would have went around, I would have not been first. So there's this big banner. Now, when I've told this story before, and people are like, "Oh, bullshit! You didn't jump through a banner." The banner was like a cloth, like hanging,
so you didn't like rip it.
No, not at all. It was like if you were hanging like a blanket or that. It was like whatever tapestry type of thing, and so I jumped through the banner to get to the aisle to go through to get to the escalator, and I got through, and I ended up being the first. I got the black GameCube. I brought it home, and I love it to this day. I think it's a great fucking system, and I love the GameCube.
That's awesome.
I do. But there is a lot of garbage on it, too.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I like that story.
Yeah, that's my story.
Good. That's the GameCube.
That's the GameCube.